Now, what about the journey to CEOship? And, you've talked about your own story, really throwing yourself into the deep end and knew very little and had to learn, had mentors and a good support network. But what are some of the critical things that you would say, maybe in a slightly more reflective mood to senior talent who are eyeing up a transformational CEO brief?
Yeah, and actually I'm working with some, I call it C-suite -2, who the next 5-8 years. One is it's incredibly lonely. It's incredibly lonely, and you've got to be comfortable with that. I think, and what I mean by that is not, when I say comfortable, you've got to not let it affect you, because I've seen people go, yeah, get it, and then they get in there and the loneliness affects them. How does it affect them? They become withdrawn. They become more irritable. They become more just get it done. And it's actually just coming from a sense of loneliness that, it is really difficult. No one's on my side. So if you like, they default to some unhelpful behaviors. So you got to kind of going eyes open. I'm okay with this because I'm really wanting to transform. I'm wanting to do something special here. I wanted to do something that has impact and positive impact for people. So I think that's key. I think the second thing is, I say this carefully, who leads you? Have you been led? Because it's really helpful to be led, because then you work out what works and what doesn't, and you see it. And again, quite a few people haven't, they've had a manager, but that's different. They've had a leader, but that's different. Have you allowed yourself to be led, where you've gone along with someone else's vision? I have. A couple of times in my personal life, I've set up some quite significant charities, impacted hundreds and hundreds of kids in York. We worked with through the council, and it was a local faith-based organisation, and it was because the minister had a vision, and I had to allow him to lead me. Did I like everything and the way he did everything? No. Did I think at times it was over just at OTT and all the rest? But wow, there was thousands of young people in York over a decade who, instead of just hanging out on streets or getting through to being put in expulsion or isolation at school, they would work with the charity that he set up and helped run. And so that taught me an awful lot, which is no one ever gets anything right. So that was really helpful to go, I'm not going to get everything right when I get to lead. Learn to apologize, keep short accounts. He was very good at doing that, to be fair to him. He would always say, yep, sorry. Had that idea, it was completely awful. Didn't work at all. And we'd adjust and move on. So be led. I mean, and I'm emphasizing this, Eric, because I actually don't think a lot of people are led. They have a leader who they report to, but they're not leading them. And they're not allowing them to lead them. So I would encourage you. You'll know when you are, because you'll do things that you wouldn't necessarily want to do. I'm talking about within the safe boundaries, but and you'll try things that you probably wouldn't try to do because you think, well, I'm going to let them.
And when you're at CEO -2, you've got plenty of time to practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can hear you doing it as you describe that minister. You're reflecting on what he did well. I think it's a he, but what he did well and what he didn't.
Yeah. I wrote him a letter actually after I left, and it was great just to cathartically say, hey, I'm okay saying these are the things I thought were mad. And actually, these are things were phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that I got to experience both.
And I bet he did too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So Matt, to wrap up our conversation, a few questions, and actually in your kind of deep thinking around CEOs, you've already touched on some of these points, but I just want to try and nail them with you. So the first question is, are Transformer CEOs born or bred?
I actually think it's a mix. I think there just are some people who are naturally, visionary, good at, it's kind of in their I can see, I've got 3 sons. I can see, one of my sons is more, seems to be naturally in there, if that makes sense. So that I can see them born, but it can be bred, done well, but that requires that person to allow themselves to really learn and grow. Absolutely.
And Transformer CEOs, is it a one-time thing, or once you've got the drug, you're kind of hooked?
I think it's well, I'm going to give 2 sides here. I think one, I agree with you. It's quite hard once you've had the drug and, and you've seen the positive impact. You kind of want to do it again, and maybe even on a bigger scale. That's not ego, by the way. if it's that, and again, we can all think of some politicians, blonde hair, big ambitions, no longer prime minister. I would say there's all sorts going on there that isn't necessarily, I've had a real positive impact and I want to have more. I think art is more ego driven. And I would say it's good to have gone through some failures and learnt through that. And this is the bit I say carefully, being a Transformer CEO, even on a small scale or a very sort of Elon Musk type scale, you become very wired. And what do I mean by wired? Cortisol is going through your body all the time. Your frequency is quite high, and I'm sure you experienced this when you were, HRD for a very large company. That's okay, and part of the journey is learning to be more at peace as you go through that. And I'd love to say you come into it already at peace and zen-like and lead like that. The journey does it for you.
Yeah.
And the point I'm trying to make is before you go again, and I'm thinking of a couple of friends here who've done some really transformational things and they're going straight again. And my advice to them was give yourself a year.
Yeah.
Absolutely. At the very least, give yourself 6 months because your perspective will change.
What about the demand for Transformer CEOs? Rising or falling, staying the same?
Wow, this is interesting, Eric, because I think Gen Z actually wants. I think they are in the pendulum swing of those millennials. They went too far against leadership and I, and and I'm on the cusp of millennial and Gen X, so I can sort of swing either way. So it's not so much criticism; it's observation that millennials were much more of don't tell me what to do, I'll do my own thing, it's how I feel. They're the big broad brushstrokes, as well as being very passionate, and some of the things that they've sort of got into and driven. I think Gen Z though is going, this seems to have gone a bit too far into we all do our own thing, we're all our own individuals, nothing matters except what I think matters. So I actually think that's all to say, I think we're going to see people saying, I want to be involved in some transformational things. I want to see at a micro level or a macro level of the nation or micro level of my own little businesses. I want to do some awesome things and take some people with me. And honestly, there's nothing better than having what I'd call a gang. When you've got your gang, your group, whether that's 1,000 people or 50 people, and you're on a mission, you got a vision, and you're all aligned. I mean, I can feel it now. It's so exciting, and I think there's so many people who've missed out on that because they've gone, "No, I just do my own little thing, and I'll sit on the sideline." And I actually think you're going to see more leaders emerging over the next 5-10 years with big visions, big ideas of transforming both corporate and the business, and they will hopefully be allowed and lead well. So the be allowed is, people have got to say, okay, lead. But also they need to lead well.
And what about reward for these guys? Do they deserve a premium, do you think?
We're in a capitalist society. Mm-hmm. Capitalist society has been the best structure, form, system to remove poverty. Does it have downsides? Yes. Do people get to the point, Musk is going to get $1 trillion. I mean, what does that even mean? It's so ridiculous. And as he said on the podcast, I don't think he even he has one house or a condo or something. Now, of course, he can stay wherever he wants and all the rest. But my point being is, I still think the capitalist system is the best ultimately for reducing poverty and bringing people into better outcomes. Absolutely. Does it have excesses that from time to time governments need to rein in? Yes. Do I think governments are going too far in the West on some of that in terms of some of taxation? And, I know people today, early 30-somethings who've left the UK, gone to Portugal and gone, this is not because I don't think I'm going to get remunerated well enough, or this system over here is going to take so much of my money, 50%, that, and by the way, that's a failing system. Why would I ever? Because, this is difficult for entrepreneurs who, why would I give that amount of money to a system that is literally wasting it in front of my eyes? So I would always lean towards, I believe capitalism is the best system. I think people should be rewarded. Do some of the excesses. Well, it's an interesting point actually. If you go back, was it the Quakers? So think Barclays, think Rowntree's, think Cadbury's. They set up towns, they set up villages, they paid their workers phenomenally well. They set up health clubs, and they did that because the state didn't. What we've moved to now, but they gave money to it. What we've done now is go, oh, the state just does all that, and I think sometimes actually individuals are better to maybe do some of that rather than just think the state should do it all.
What a great point.
But anyway,
and what's next for you? Because you've sold your business.
Yes.
So you're investing in other businesses now. You're continuing to support Transformer CEOs in various forms.
Yeah. I'm having a lot of fun, Eric. I came off my cortisol levels. I took my own advice. I took a year to wander around. I did some good traveling, being honest, because I went straight from university into work, and we had kids when we were very young and all the rest. So it's literally just been, so I did a little bit of travel this year. And really 2 or 3 things. So one is, I think there's definitely another play in me. I think, AI is something around that, but I like AI and human, and how you sort of look at the two together, and how we can overlay them in a way that's complementary, which I think we can. So I'm in all sorts of conversations with different people who I get so many, opportunities put in front of me. People send to me to kind of go, do you want to invest, investor decks and all the rest. But so candidly, what I'm really enjoying is I'm still a little bit involved with Impulse, which is doing a great job at continuing the journey of how do we influence and how do we continue with the story. Story's evolved a bit because emotions is kind of done. So it's moved to more and more, how do we get managers to be the real center point of transformation in an organization by having the conversations, which often leads up skilling and all the rest. I'm invested. I'm going on the wild, crazy roller coaster of investing in others, which is infuriating, wonderful, maddening, as you have to sort of almost let go of the money and forget that bit and just enjoy the ride of other people's journey. And one thing I would say, by the way, certainly an entrepreneur, you have to be able to sell. So in a sense, to be a transformer, you've got to know how to sell. I'm not talking about even selling a widget you've just got to know how to sell. For me, another word is influence. You have to know how to influence people. And I've made some mistakes where I've invested in entrepreneurs who I then realized they were the idea person or the product person. They weren't the influencer. And honestly, I'd never do it again. Anyone I invest in has to be able to sell. Otherwise,
it's a great point.
You don't do it. So having a lot of fun investing in that, seeing what comes on my desk, and then staying a little bit involved in Impulse.
Amazing.